Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of a review and an opinion on this right here. I finally got a hold of the Maximum Series Spider-Man, with which there has been just tons of controversy for the last couple of months since this thing was announced. Now, I picked this one up at a local toy and comic shop. I want to give them a little bit of a shout out there, and Back Again Toys in Flint, Michigan. Go check them out if you if you want. But you can see the price. I paid $55 for this. Now that's $5 above retail, but I didn't have to order it online, so there was no shipping or anything like that attached to that. 55 bucks out the door, and I was pretty happy with that price, given what this thing had been kind of floating around for, depending on where you bought it. And I still have one on pre-order from GameStop that I think, with taxes and shipping and everything else, is going to be like $62. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to cancel that one or not. We'll see how I feel about this. I may want a second one. I may not. I may think this is totally worth it. I may think it's absolutely not worth the price. I don't know. But I wanted to start this review out a little bit differently, and talk about this $55 price, or $50 price, or $60 price, whatever you may be able to get this thing for. And that is to say that it's not about the dollar amount, it's about the value. And that is a ridiculously personal thing. And nobody can tell you that this is or isn't worth it for the price, because everybody's going to have their own opinion on what that value is for them. And for some people, this is totally worth it. And for others, it's just a steaming pile of shit that is just Hasbro trying to steal money for people. It's personal opinion. Look, I am surrounded by figures, as I'm sure you are as well, surrounded by figures that I paid more than $55 for. Some that arguably may have been way, way better than this figure might end up being, and some that, without a doubt, are probably nowhere near as good as this figure right here. Up here on the shelf behind me, I've got a Toy Biz Cyborg Spider-Man. Now, I wasn't collecting back in the 2000s. I've always loved Spider-Man, but just collecting action figures at that particular time was not something I was doing. So I had to get this thing years and years later. And it was a figure that had been a grail of mine for a long time. I paid more than $55 for it, that's for sure. Now, that thing, probably, just arguably, just looking at this in the package, nowhere near as good as this figure right here as far as articulation and sculpt and everything else. Yet I paid more for it because it was worth it to me. That's basically what it boils down to. I've got this figure right here. Again, while I had started collecting action figures in 2012 when this movie Amazing Spider-Man figure came out, I wasn't collecting newer figures. I was only collecting vintage stuff, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, things like that. So by the time it got to the point that I had started collecting 6-inch scale, Marvel Legends, that kind of thing, this figure had gotten really, really expensive. And I'll tell you what, this thing costs way more than $55. I still picked it up because it was worth it to me, because I wanted this figure in my collection. Hell, if we look at customs that I had, okay? I did this Rye from Valiant Comics. I love this figure. This was a custom that I did. It took 3 figures to put this thing together. Okay, that's not time, paint, everything else. It took 3 $20 to $25 figures to put this figure together. Was it worth it for me? 100%. Hell yes, it totally was. Even though this is just put together with Marvel Legends that don't have the greatest articulation. Now, comparatively, this should be, as an action figure, not as a character, but as an action figure, a better figure than this, yet paid a lot more money to put this one together. And look, that's the point of this, because there's so much controversy about this figure right here that I don't understand. And I think most of it's just YouTube drama. You've got groups of people. There are the Hasbros, and then there are the Hasbro haters. And everybody wants to start drama about this because drama gets views. I don't know how many people genuinely have a strong opinion about this. I really don't, to be honest with you. I love Spider-Man, that's why I picked this thing up, but I don't have a strong opinion on whether or not the price is some kind of big deal. I just don't. I bought it, got one. I'm gonna see if I think it's worth it for my collection. Either way, I'm gonna keep it. I mean, I've already paid for it. It's not like I'm gonna get rid of it and dump it if I decide, nah, it's not really worth the 55 bucks. I've got tons of figures like that. We all do. Figures that we got excited about, we bought, and then we were like, I don't really think this is worth it. That was my entire McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. I spent tons of money collecting. I think I had almost 200 McFarlane DC Multiverse figures before I got rid of them over the course of the last year. And I paid almost full price on probably all of them. And in the end, I was like, these things aren't even worth $5 to me. I still spent the money. We all do. I mean, if you buy Mafex, Revoltech, Mezco, whatever it is, SH Figuarts, which I have a lot of that stuff in my collection, paid way more than this for all of those. Was it worth it to me? Did I get value for it? Usually yes. Sometimes no, but usually yes. And so I just wanted to start this review off with that, okay? I'm gonna try and be honest with you guys on whether or not I think this is a good figure, and then I will give you my opinion on whether or not I think, was it worth the $55 to me personally? But understand that doesn't mean that it may or may not be worth it to you personally. It really just kind of comes down to personal opinion, and that's what it's all about. That's why I end every video saying enjoy your collection. Only you can enjoy your collection. Don't let other people tell you what you should or shouldn't buy. Don't let YouTube drama and people trying to curate views, or people who've invested in a particular side of an argument or a particular opinion that now feel they've gone too far to back off and admit this might be a good figure or this might be a bad figure or whatever they truly feel. Don't let those people on YouTube tell you what you should enjoy, what you should buy, what you should find value in, and how you should enjoy your collection. That's kind of the point of all this. So anyway, let's go ahead, get into this. I'm gonna crack this guy open, and we're gonna see if, for me, this was a good value. All right, so I've got it mostly out of the package, but I just want to take advantage of, you know, kind of the packaging and everything to show you guys all the accessories that he comes with. So of course we've got, you know, the stand there for his effects. We've got some extra open hands. We've got the uncovered hands there with the web shooters. We've got some web shooting hands. We've got webs going down there. We got thwip hands. We got gripping hands. We've got a web shield, web effects. We've got the Spider-Man, the extra Spider-Man head there with the Spidey sense. And then we've got the Peter Parker head in addition to the figure itself. All right, so here he is in all of his glory out of the package, and I've been sitting here trying to look at the figure to see if I can see any defects, because I know that was something that I've seen a couple of people complain about, specifically when it comes to the webbing, and I'm trying to see if I can find anything off with the webbing. I know there was some issues, people saying there was some webbing off on the top of the head. I don't see anything there. I'm not seeing anything. If you guys see anything on camera, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm not seeing any defects here, but you know, sometimes you just miss things, especially when you have really, really tight webbing patterns like this. It is something that you might miss. So I might be missing something that I don't see, but all in all, it looks good. I gotta be honest, I really, really dig the sculpt. It's very, you know, people keep saying this is like a McFarlane Spider-Man. To me, it looks, honestly, it looks more like Eric Larson Spider-Man, which I'm fine with because I actually like Eric Larson Spider-Man better than I like McFarlane Spider-Man as far as art style. And that's kind of what this evokes to me more than it does kind of a McFarlane look. But, you know, that could just be my own personal opinion, whatever it may be. But I really, really like the way this thing looks. Just the overall sculpt, the design looks great. I like how he's muscular but not too big. And for me, that's Spider-Man. He should be a little bit lanky, and this guy certainly has kind of a lanky look to him. Unlike that Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, which we'll do a comparison here in just a little bit, which was just too big. He was almost Captain America sized, and that's not Peter Parker. But it looks good. I really like the sculpt. I really like the deco. Again, from what I can see here, all the web lines look fantastic. The head sculpt looks good. I'm not seeing any issues with this. Now, that doesn't obviously make it worth $55, but I'm not seeing any issues, at least not with the one that I've picked up here, as far as just paint and deco and overall sculpt, all that kind of stuff. It's a really good looking Spider-Man. Now, obviously, the thing people care about the most when it comes to Spider-Man is articulation. Now, I am not somebody who makes their decisions on picking up action figures, anything like that, based on articulation. However, with Spider-Man, you do expect a Spider-Man figure to have better articulation than other figures. So we are going to play around with it here just a little bit to see, and I'm not a poser, okay? So I don't put my figures into awesome, crazy poses or anything like that, but he can get basically one hand over the other there with the butterfly joints. They come back to here, which is pretty good. Can he look up? Can he look up? It doesn't appear that he can. Wait, hold on. There we go. It's just a little stiff. He can kind of look forward-ish, up-ish, something like that. Not crazy, but I guess it's good enough for a Spider-Man pose. We get that good arch back like that. Arch forward is pretty good. Not a complete curl. I guess you can bend at the hips too and get it a little bit further there. Legs come out to there. I'm probably not the best video to watch on YouTube when it comes to like trying to get a Spider-Man figure into some crazy pose or articulation to see if this is worth it, if that's your thing, because I just don't do that with most of my figures. But he seems more than posable enough to me. In fact, as I'm sitting here kind of playing with him, he's way more posable than any of my other Spider-Man figures. I don't know. The only one I might be able to get into a little bit crazier positions or pose a little bit better is maybe the Mafex, is the only thing I can think of. And I'll play around with that a little bit and see what we can do. But again, not the best channel in the world to be watching if you're overly concerned with articulation. That's just not me. Look at those drop down hips. That's crazy. Those are some extreme drop down hips. I mean, look, just me sitting here playing with this and looking at the accessories that it comes with and what I can do when it comes to posability and what I'm noticing out of this. I mean, this feels to me just as good as my Mafex as far as sculpt, design, paint, articulation, that kind of thing. And I paid twice what I paid for this thing for my Mafex. So, I mean, just in that aspect, it's kind of holding its value for me at the moment. And then when you look at the amount of accessories, this actually came with more accessories than my Mafex Spider-Man 185 did. Now, had I got the original Spider-Man, I can't remember what number that one was when it comes to the Mafex that came with all the accessories but had slightly different deco, that's probably about equal to this when it comes to accessories. But this was the 185 that I had picked up, so it didn't come with much of anything, but still cost like $100. Look, I gotta say at the moment I've got no complaints here. For me, it's got all the articulation I would want for a Spider-Man figure. The deco, as I'm looking at it more and more, looks fantastic. I'm really digging the really, really tight-knit spider webs that he's got on him. The logo looks great. The head sculpt looks great. We're going to swap out some heads here and see how he looks and do some hand swaps and stuff like that. But so far, I'm very happy with this. He looks good. Look, we're gonna do some head swaps, swap some other parts on him, see how he looks, and then we'll do some comparisons and see how he stacks up to some other Spider-Man figures. All right, so this is the other kind of masked head that comes in the package. A little bit smaller eyes, thicker black lines. To me, this one definitely looks a lot more like Eric Larsen's art than the other figure does, and this kind of is probably how I'm going to display this guy, just because I'm a big fan of Eric Larsen's art. I like this head sculpt. All right, so here we have the unmasked head, and I gotta be honest, I don't like this head sculpt at all. It does not look like Peter Parker to me. Honestly, if this head sculpt had red hair, that looks more like Cletus Cassidy to me than Peter Parker. I'm not a fan of this head sculpt. I will not be putting this on this Peter Parker. Even if I want to display him unmasked, this is not the head sculpt I would use. All right, so here's the older Peter Parker head that we've all seen many, many times. I can't remember which one this came from. Honestly, I don't know, but this thing's been re-released with Peter Parker a few times. This looks way better as far as an unmasked head, and I think that looks really good on this figure. So if I was going to display him unmasked and with the, you know, uncovered hands, I think this would work. This head sculpt works much better and looks much more like the Peter Parker that I know and love from when I used to read the books. All right, just to throw it up with some of the Spider-Man figures that I have, range a nice gamut of different things out there. Obviously, we've got the new Maximum series, we've got Mafex, we've got Renew Your Vows, Revoltech, we've got Animated Spider-Man, which I do like this buck a lot for a younger Spider-Man. And then we've got one of my favorites, the old Toy Biz something. I don't know. They re-released this buck several times in several different decos. This is the one with the darker deco and the translucent eyes. And I think this is a good range of Spider-Man. Now, obviously, the Renew Your Vows right here has been a lot of people's favorites. To me, he's just too big. You can see he's the tallest, biggest, bulkiest one, and that's just not Spider-Man to me. Revoltech is cool, but very stylized, and you know, not what I would use as a like go-to Spider-Man. The old Toy Biz one, while I love it, it's got that lanky look, very reminiscent of, you know, certain artists' version of Spider-Man, very stylistic. I like it a lot. The animated version, again, I love this one. This is a fantastic figure. Again, kind of evokes whether it's Spider-Man the Animated Series or just a younger version of Peter Parker. Mafex is one of the best Spider-Man figures ever created, hands down. It's absolutely amazing. However, one thing that I do have an issue with it is that it has small proportions once you get below the knees and the arms. They just are. The hands are really small, the feet are really small, the calves, the biceps, everything. It's an incredibly well-articulated, well-decoed figure, but the proportions are slightly off. They don't look quite right. From the knees down should be a little bit bigger, and his arms and hands should be bigger and bulkier. However, still one of the greatest Spider-Man figures ever of all time. But I gotta say, with this lineup right here, I mean, just, you know, absolute pure honesty. If I was to say which one is the best representation of Spider-Man, for me, like if I was only going to have one of these, I mean, honestly, I have a hard time not saying the Maximum series right about now. Honestly, it's just like a perfect combination of sculpt and deco. Again, I'm not concerned about the articulation, although it does have good articulation. Obviously better than the Toy Biz, obviously better than the Revoltech, which is highly stylized. Better sculpt than the Renew Your Vows. Doesn't look like Captain America, looks like Peter Parker. This is great for a younger or animated Spider-Man, but not necessarily an all-around Spider-Man. And this one is damn near perfect if the proportions, as I mentioned, were just a little bit better. This one doesn't have any of the other issues that I mentioned with those. It just seems like a really good kind of 80s to 90s version of Spider-Man, just as far as overall sculpt and deco and everything. It's really good. I've got to say, I am pleasantly surprised how it stacks up against these figures right here, specifically the ones that I didn't think I would like this one better than was the animated and the Mafex. And to be honest, as I'm looking at it here, just from a purely stylistic approach, not from an articulation approach, I think I like the Maximum series a little bit better. All right, so in the end, it comes down to, is it worth it? Is it worth it the 50 to 60 bucks you're probably going to pay for this? For me, I would say yes. Like I said, it cost me about half what my Mafex did and comes with more accessories. And I like it. I mean, I actually genuinely like the figure. I like the deco. I like the sculpt. The articulation is way more than good enough for me. Most of the accessories I'm not even going to use, but I mean, I'm glad they're there. It's got a very classic 80s, 90s Spider-Man look. Again, to me, it evokes Eric Larson, which was one of my favorite Spider-Man artists. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I always did. And other than the unmasked head sculpt, which I just think looks absolutely hideous, I really like the figure. I like that it comes with all the accessories that it does, even though I won't use most of them in my display. I think it's solid. Now, if you want to come down on the technical aspect of, is it worth, $30 more than your average Marvel Legend? Pound for pound, no. And honestly, because I don't care about all the accessories. Like, it's nice to have a couple extra pair of hands, maybe an extra head sculpt, but I personally don't care about all the web effects and the, 3 other extra sets of hands and the unmasked head that I don't like. Like, pound for pound, no, from a technical aspect. But value-wise, for me, as a Spider-Man fan, I look at this and go, I've spent way more money than this on Spider-Man figures that don't look this good and that don't come with as many accessories. So for me, yeah, it's totally worth it. So it really just depends on how you look at it. Again, personal preference, guys. I'm not saying this is a good figure. I'm not saying this is a bad figure. I'm not saying it's worth 50 to 60 bucks or that it's not worth 50 to 60 bucks. I'm saying to me it is. I really like the figure. I think they did a great job. And I personally have spent way more money on not just Spider-Man figures, but many other figures, many other characters that I don't even like as much as Spider-Man than I spent on this guy right here. So in the end, for me, it's totally worth it. And if you are like me, and you have spent that kind of money on other things, and you are a Spider-Man fan, then you can reasonably look at this and everything it comes with, and look at the price and go, yeah, it's worth it for me. Is it worth it pound for pound when it comes to pricing, plastic, and all that other stuff? Probably not. But in the end, does it put a smile on your face? Does it make you happy? Are you glad to have it in your collection? If so, then it's totally worth it.